Good morning and welcome to your Partner in Success Radio. I am Denise Griffitts, and today I sit down with executive coach and author Rachel Burr, and we're going to talk about what transformation actually looks like. According to her, it is messy, uncomfortable, and anything but polished, and I understand that. Drawing from her book, Butterfly Goo, Goo, I love that title. Butterfly Goo, The Down and Dirty Truth of Transformation. Rachel breaks down why the hard parts of growth they're not obstacles to avoid, but the process itself. From the meaning behind Butterfly Goo to the role of humor, self-awareness, and authentic leadership, this is a refreshingly honest conversation about growth. And a big thank you to today's sponsor, Diana Fritz. She has got an incredible book, Uniquely Imperfect, Uniquely Qualified. She has been a guest on this show as well. I have that book and love it. And here's the truth. Your imperfections don't disqualify you rather, they qualify you. And Diana shows how and exactly why that is the truth. And this book is available right now on Amazon and just recently on Audible. So head on over to Amazon to grab your copy or search Uniquely Imperfect, Uniquely Qualified, and Audible and start listening today. You won't regret it. It's an amazing story. You can also connect with Diana on her website at grituiuq.com. I have to spell it out because there's no way to actually say it. grituiuq.com or on LinkedIn. Rachel, good morning and welcome to your Partner in Success Radio.
Good morning, Denise. Thank you so much for having me.
I love your book and thank you for sending that to me. And you have to tell me about that title because I remember during our pre-interview conversation some months ago that I was fascinated. It landed in my mailbox and I went, what? It's a beautiful cover for starters. And I thought, what is goo? What is goo? And I was fascinated. It's like, tell me. So I want you to tell our audience what that title means and what it means to you.
Absolutely. And it is one of those titles where, if nothing else, it encourages you to pick up the book.
Well, and got a pretty book cover too. So there's that.
Oh, my designer did a fabulous job. I would absolutely work with her again. So, yes. So, go ahead.
I hit that button accidentally. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No worries. No worries. So, the title really, I think the title had been brewing a long time. One of the reasons, maybe the main reason I wrote this book is this idea of transformation. It to a lot of folks, it feels unattainable. It feels like this big word that's heavy, and they look out there in social media, especially now. I mean, it happened before social media, but you look at all these perfect reels. People see the highlights of other folks' life, what other folks not only, show to the world, but what they really want you to see. And it sets completely unrealistic expectations that people think if they hit barriers or they hit obstacles or they go through this, that they must be doing something wrong. And my goal with this book was to really make transformation more understandable, actionable, and therefore more attainable. And the butterfly is such a perfect analogy because we have this idea that the butterfly's transformation is magic. And it's not. It's hard work. The little caterpillar goes into the cocoon or spins her cocoon, and technically it's a chrysalis, but we all know the cocoon butterfly combo a little bit better. She goes in and she dissolves into this green gelatinous goo. And what happens is she dissolves down to her fundamental building blocks. And from those building blocks, she builds something new. Now, this takes weeks potentially for the butterfly. That seems really short to you and I, but that's a very long time in this animal's life. And I think there's so many things that are really important. One, she already had all those building blocks inside of her. A lot of times we think transformation is turning ourselves into something we're not. The butterfly was always, the caterpillar was always going to be a butterfly. The goo itself, to your point you said earlier, it is not something we have to just tolerate. It's not something we just have to withstand. It is integral to our transformation that we go through this process, that it's through these challenges, it's through overcoming obstacles, that is how we grow. And I even love the end that when the butterfly emerges, she still has to struggle in order to get through, so her wings will be strong enough to fly. So to me, it really took this ideal, the illusion of almost, the pinnacle of transformation, and it broke it down to understand that the transformation a butterfly experiences is not magical, and it isn't magical for us either. And it's important to understand that the world struggles. Other people can do this. It's not just them. We can do it too.
When I opened the package and I saw the cover, the first word out of my mouth, and I said it out loud, was metamorphosis.
Mm,
I mean,
that's
that's what I took out of it, and I hadn't even cracked the book yet.
metamorphosis is such a beautiful word. And I think that's also kind of this magical word. It's a very big word. And I think absolutely, it applies because that's what butterflies go through, and I think what's nice about it is people look at that aha moment, they like that eureka piece of when the butterfly emerges, the metamorphosis is complete, but the complete part is what's important. It's all the little steps that lead up to that emergence. That is the transformation. People confuse the 2. They think it's the end, the ta-da, that that's the change, and really, transformation, metamorphosis is a culmination of all the little steps that we take to reach that eureka, that aha moment for ourselves in what the world thinks of as transformation or metamorphosis.
Sorry, did you hear me banging around on my desk?
I did not.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
good. No,
Nope.
normally when something falls on me, I say a bad word, and I was hoping you didn't catch that. But what caused you, I mean, you've got this wonderful background, but what caused you to write this book? Was there a point where you were in the middle of your own butterfly goo phase that you just said, "I've got to share this"?
Oh, I've been through so many goos, I tell you, and I like to say that the transformation process never ends unless we choose for it to end. That inside every butterfly is another hungry caterpillar. For
I never
me,
thought of that.
yeah, humans, it's great. Butterflies get one shot, right? They have
Right.
one life, but we transform over and over again. We continue to grow. And every time we do that, we also build our confidence in our ability to grow. And that's what's really important. It can feel so intimidating sometimes looking at where we're trying to get to. And what we don't realize sometimes, we think we have to have confidence in order to jump in, and don't get me wrong, if you already have the confidence, great, go do it. For the rest of us, probably most of us, it may not start out that way. Fear, uncertainty, all that is normal. And what we don't realize sometimes is once you step into the unknown, once you start to slog through the goo, and by the way, there are wins and there's fun along the way too. But as you start to go through that, you build your confidence. You fall, you realize you can get back up, you keep going. And I think that is such a critical point to understand that as we go through our transformation, then the next time, the next journey, it's different. But we start to realize that we can do this, and that's the whole every butterfly within us, we have the potential for so much more expansion as we go through our life.
But we have to get out of our way.
Oh, we can either be our worst enemy or our own biggest champion.
Oh,
And
and all in one
yeah,
day.
all in one day. Exactly.
Mhm.
It is not an either or like forever. It is we all have those moments that we go through. And again, normal. And that's one of the things in the book and in my keynote that I wanna normalize all this, that transformation is messy, and this is okay, so that when you hit that swampy goo, you won't think, "Oh, no, I'm doing something wrong. I have to retreat, and go back." And instead, you look at it for what it is, and you think, "Well, yeah, I was expecting this, gotta get those hip waders on and get slogging through the goo so I can get where I wanna go."
And listen, as entrepreneurs, anybody who is an entrepreneur or a solopreneur knows exactly what I'm about to say, and that is that we fall on our butts all
Mhm.
the time, and I do mean all the time. It's daily. Sometimes it's, maybe at noon and maybe again at 7 o'clock that night, but something's going to go slightly wrong or irritatingly wrong or catastrophically wrong.
Mhm.
But, we just get up, we pull our panties back up and go to work. So, and that didn't mean what you thought it meant. It
No,
just
no, 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 I know.
it's a Southern thing.
It's funny because the quote by, Friedrich Nietzsche says, "That which doesn't kill us makes us stronger." And I actually think that's wrong. I think what happens is we make ourselves stronger when instead of dying, we choose to grow. And I think the idea that just because something happens, that's what's that's the transformative, effect. No, that may be a catalyst, but we have to choose growth. And to your point, we have to choose to get back up when we fall rather than staying down.
We do. And, sometimes you'll just have and I hear this all the time, "I'm having a bad day," and I'm fairly analytical,
Mm.
and my first question is, "Really? The whole day? Honest? The whole darn day?"
Mm.
Yeah, you know, s take that piece out, look at it, shake it, stick it outside, hose it down, shake it out, and get rid of it.
Absolutely.
When you were in the middle of your own butterfly goo phase, did you recognize it? And what did you do? What did you have to do that was hardest to get rid of, to release?
That is a great question. The first time that I realized, and the book starts with my first big quit, I guess is how I put it. No, I did not realize that because I was so intent on staying in the path that I was in because I was afraid to leave. I didn't know what else was out there. I didn't even know I could change. And there was this series of steps that eventually I like to say change happens when the fear of the unknown is finally, outweighed by the dread of staying the same. And something shifts. And if we're open to it, a lot of times we have this voice in our head or these feelings that, this really isn't your path. But, these are red flags, but we ignore them. um, because it's the devil we know versus the devil we don't, and something has to shift eventually. I will say now that after so many journeys of transformation, and there will be so many more, now it's not even that I have to see change yet. It's like I can feel it coming. And I talk about it in the book a little bit. I grew up in the Midwest, and the farmers, when a storm is coming, they just know.
Oh,
And
yeah, we
that's,
do too. I'm
yeah,
telling you,
exactly.
I don't watch I'm in the middle of hurricane season. I mean, I will
Oh,
be in June.
mm.
We have 2 seasons here in Southwest Louisiana, hot and hotter than hell, and 6 months of that is hurricane season. I don't watch the news channel. I just don't.
Mm.
I watch my dog.
Mm.
She's going to tell me exactly what's coming and when.
Our animals are so much smarter than us when it comes to all that. We have the same
Oh,
thing
yeah.
with earthquakes out here. The the animals and everything seems to know it before we do. So sometimes I don't even feel them, and my cat or something will, you can see it in his face. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. And people around here, "Oh god, Jim Cantor's here." I don't care. My dog is not worried, so I'm not gonna worry about it, which is an oversimplification, but watch your animals. I mean,
Mhm.
they know what's going on.
And I think it's so funny with the transformation. You asked me earlier, I think kind of what sparked the book. And people have asked me, "How long did it take you to write this?" I'm like, "Well, there's 2 answers to that question." The actual writing to the first draft was about 9 months, and people say, "Wow, that was really fast." And I'm like, "The whole process was 10 years."
Oh, why?
I because I well, first, I had to go through this process myself, and
Right.
then I had to be able to step back and get perspective on it. And in my mind, I convinced myself that what I had to write was this more formal book, something on coaching, something on, business, something, whatever. And we tell ourselves, oh, you should, you should, you should. Oh, that's such a red flag.
But
And
if it
then,
doesn't feel right, don't do it.
no, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are things that don't feel right we have to do. Colonoscopies come to mind. So, Um,
I'm thinking go to the grocery store.
yeah, oh my gosh, me too.
Yours
My
makes
husband
more
does that.
sense.
Well, mine is more dramatic, let's put it that way.
It is.
Um, but I think, one of the things, and I talk about in the book, that a lot of times it's this idea of a lock springing open, the old, the old-fashioned kind of, tumblers in a lock, and you can hear these clicks along the way, and then something finally springs open, and you may not know in your life what all those little clicks were. A lot of times you can go back and at least identify a few of them. And towards the end, one of the things that I was getting close, and I know it's getting close now because I can look back and say, "Oh, yeah, that timing." There's a book by an author called Jenny Lawson, and it's called Let's Pretend This Never Happened, a mostly true memoir, and highly recommend it for folks who like sarcasm. They like just really down to earth. She grew up in Texas, so she's got this very, practical way of looking at things, and her humor is so funny. And I read this book and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I don't have to be formal. I can be myself. I can bring my humor. I can bring my metaphors that, in the book, realize that even with the butterfly, very strange sometimes, but it's because of how I see the world. And I think other people can see it too once you start talking metaphors. But reading that book was one of those little clicks. It was one of those little aha moments that said, "Oh, I don't have to write this thing I thought I was supposed to or I had to. I could do this." And so a lot of those little things started happening, and I do not remember the last click. I just remember I was at my in-laws' home, and something was the last thing, and I went down to the desk in the office where we tend to work when we're there, and I just started writing, and I couldn't stop. I would sometimes write for a few hours a day, sometimes I wrote a couple of days. I wrote for 9 hours, and I only got up to go eat lunch, and I'm pretty sure my body did not appreciate that. But it just poured out of me, and the feeling at that point was this story had been trying to write itself through me for a very long time, and I stopped fighting it.
That makes sense. And I understand what you say about, well, I need to write in this kind of voice.
Mm.
I'm actually writing a book right now for the Closers series with Bengay the Third, and it's about podcasting as marketing. But, he told me in one of our shows, Denise, you're going to write a book. Excuse me. He said, Denise, you're going to write a book. I said, Ben, I know. I've been trying, and I was whining. I admit it. Did you hear it in my voice? I even heard it. But I was like, Ben, I know I've been trying. I've written it multiple times. I've got an epic blank page. It's not happening.
Mm,
And I was just convinced, like you were, I had to be very professional about it.
mm,
You know, my sense of humor is who I am. My mother used to call me an
absolutely.
educated smartass. Thanks, Mom. But she wasn't wrong. And then finally, I just said, to heck with it. I'm going to be me. I'm going to write like me. I'm going to sound like me. And if y'all don't like it, oh well. And now the
Mhm.
book is coming along just fine.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
It's interesting. Once you start and you get rid of those notions that were just stuck in there, it's like, well,
Mhm,
what took me so long?
mhm. Sometimes, and they say starting is the hardest part, and
Yep.
one of the things I say, and I was, especially in the keynote, I truly believe you just have to get moving. If you're in that goo, and it sounds easy, I'm not saying it is, it's not. But sometimes we think, I have to have that destination. I have to have that very clear direction. You don't. You just have to get moving. You have to get traction out of that swampy goo. And someone said this, and I thought this was really great, that there is no such thing as writer's block. Yeah.
You there? What happened? Rachel, I lost you. You okay? Well, I don't know what happened. Normally it's me that falls off the grid. Um,
Let's see, can you hear me now?
I can. Where did you go?
I don't know. I had a technical glitch the other day with a client. I'm going to have to dig in and understand this a little bit better.
It's Zoom, I'm telling you. I've been fighting a
Oh,
losing battle with them for a couple of months. Okay, go back to what you were talking about.
so
I
I'm
was
not sure
worried.
where I
I thought,
left off.
I don't
Um,
know. You were
I,
talking, I don't know. Just
I
make up stuff.
absolutely. I think for, so, and for everybody out there hearing this twice, it's not a bad thing. we get stuck in this goo and being able to just get some traction that and we talked about so there is no writer's block that all you do is start to write words on the page. I mean, it could be your grocery list for all that means, but the act of moving, you know, we so stay in our heads. I think, well, I do, and it sounds like you were saying you're very analytical. My guess
Oh,
is
yeah.
you might do that too. Um, I just the act of moving and starting to push forward that in and of itself can create momentum. And again, doesn't mean we're not gonna have setbacks, but if we just start doing what we want to do, I always say, if you want a different life, you have to live a different life. We have to do the things we know are gonna take us to where we want to go. And so even if today, for example, if you wanna get in shape, you wanna go to the gym, make a deal with yourself that if at least all you do is get up and put on your gym clothes, great. That might be good for today. Or if all you do is drive and you get to the parking lot, then do that. And, I'm sure there are folks out there that are highly motivated and they're like, well, that's ridiculous. And it's like, it is for you if you're already there, but you, the people who are already motivated to go to the gym, you probably have something else in your life that maybe you're putting off. And so we don't get to judge other people's steps as being too big or too small. I would say we have that Goldilocks sweet spot that's just right for us. I do think we need to stretch ourselves. I think in terms of where we think we can push ourselves outside the comfort zone, I believe that we can push ourselves just a little further. We just have to believe that we can.
I agree with you, and I tend to think too much. I do.
Mm,
I just
mhm.
live inside my head. I don't sleep a whole heck of a lot. My mom used to say that sleeping cut into my reading time, and I resented that, so I didn't I still don't sleep very well. But, I was talking about Ben Gay the 3rd just a minute ago. He was the final mentee of Dr. Napoleon Hill. I'm losing my
Mm,
sorry, Dr. Napoleon Hill, and people say, "Oh, I've read that book, but I didn't understand it." I'm gonna give you a hint. He says in there many, many, many times what you just said, basically, "Take action.
mhm.
Take action." And that rings in my head all the time because Ben is my mentor, and I feel like I'm being mentored by Dr. Napoleon Hill at the same time. And honestly, I will catch myself and we all do this, procrastination. I have a degree in it. It's a minor degree, but I have a degree. And "Oh, I'll do that later." I know I won't do it later, so I will say, "Stop," and I'll come back in here and I'll finish it, like, "Ooh, okay, now I can go play with the dog, or now I can go read a book, or now I can,
Mhm.
wash that tomato and finally eat it," do whatever I feel like doing, but take action. If you don't take action, you're just gonna be muddling around in the goo.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think, as you were saying, you'll see this idea other places, and I say when you start to see the same idea kind of we talk about in the zeitgeist, right, in other areas from other people, and it could be across even different disciplines. Pay attention. There is some kind of line of truth or something through that we need to hear. And I think that's really important because the other piece that I think is funny with authors that I've talked to, and people think writing a book is a really big deal. And I'm not saying it isn't. It is, but it's another thing where we have these mental blocks. And someone said to me, but what can I write that hasn't already been said? And I
But
said,
it's in your voice.
yeah, but it's like in all of human history, nothing. But to your point, it's in your voice. It's in your perspective of the world, and and you're the one that's getting the story out, both for you and for other people, because there are folks out there that need to hear it the way you're going to say it. That there are other folks that they've resonated with someone else along the way, and that is great. But there are people out there that need to hear it the way you're going to say it because that's how they will resonate with it.
That's exactly right, and I'm so glad you said that because I feel the same way about podcasting.
Mhm.
You get out there, like, what my title of my book is Podcasting is Marketing 101, something like that. It's still in flex, but get your voice out there, however you're going to do it, whether it's writing a letter to somebody, whether
Mhm.
it's being on a podcast or having a podcast, maybe you're writing articles. Your voice is so important. Get it out there.
Your voice is so important, and I think to your point earlier with humor is a big part, well, it is of our voices anyway.
Yeah, and
Now
storytelling, same thing.
absolutely. Other people, their writing style, different, that's okay. Their voice, different audience. But your voice is yours, and it's honestly, it's one of the only thing that's ours. It because what happens is the way we think, our perspective, all of that comes through our voice. And it's funny, as I say this, I also don't wanna say, if you don't feel comfortable in podcasts or you don't feel comfortable doing this, now, you may wanna push that, that's great. But to your point, there are so many outlets. Don't let that stop you because and my husband was saying, we were talking the keynote, and he's like, "I could never get up and do a keynote for 45 minutes to an hour." He's like, "I wouldn't remember all of it." He's like, "And I wouldn't want to do it." And I'm like and that's the thing. It's sometimes we think, "Oh, I should do this or I should do this because of my career." And it's like, again, colonoscopy, you should go do that, everybody out there, especially if you're over 50. But trying to fit yourself I talk with my clients a lot, the executives I work with, leadership is not a cookie cutter. Life is not a cookie cutter. And a lot of times when you try to the little cookie cutters that look like stars, you think about that, and you push them into the dough, and can you get a lot of little stars that look almost exactly the same?
No,
Absolutely. Right.
no.
Well, and, but when you push that in, you leave all of this doughy goodness outside, and that's what we do to ourselves. When we try to push ourselves into a cookie cutter, a lot of times we cut off some of the best parts of ourselves that will really help us be successful.
I love that, and I'm not a baker. I don't handle
I'm not either.
I'll cook anything down here in the South. If it gets in front of us and if we catch it, we'll kill it, skin it, cook it, but baking baking requires that accept that I'm being told what to do, and I don't like that. I fight with my nav system. She is not the boss of me. So, but I understand what we just every Christmas, I have this huge mess in my kitchen from friends coming by, and we're baking cookies for everybody, and after a while, I sneak out and I go into, the other part of the house, which, they can see me, it's open door, open floor concept, but, "Denise, you wanna do" "No, I don't." It's messy, and I you're telling me what to do, and I don't like it. I just really don't enjoy it, but I get it because I was watching all of this and thinking, "What are they gonna do with all that leftover the scraps? How many times can you ball that back up and, flatten it?"
Mhm. Flatten it. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So it gets messy, it loses strength. It's you almost have to toss it away, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Interesting.
yeah, and the baking thing too, I'm with you. There's this recipe. And I watch people out there for who are bakers who are saying, "Oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about." It's like, yes, when you all out there have that you love this, you have your own creativity that you can imbue into it. You can create that. I don't know, Denise, you and I are very much cut from the same cloth. I can barely get the recipe out of my head because when I look at the recipe and I turn to the bowl, by then teaspoons turn to tablespoons, tablespoons turn to cups. And by then I am putting 3 cups of flour or something when it should have been a half. And it's just so I don't have creativity in that way. The folks who do, that experience is completely different for them. And good for them because there's a French bakery up the road from us that I adore, and I don't want them to stop making croissants.
Right, and all I ask you to do if you're a baker and you're coming to my house, share, bring something.
Mm,
Yeah,
mhm, mhm,
I will
absolutely.
happily accept it.
I am
I'll
happy
make
to
the
accept
gumbo.
it.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you because 'cause we're talking about humor, and, did humor come naturally during your journey, or did you have to learn to find it? Or, and this is probably the better question, did you have to learn to not squash it?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I pretty much came out of the womb. Humor was a huge part of my life. Early on, I wore a lot of armor when I was young, and I'm sure there are a
Oh,
lot of folks out there, right? Armor, and I'm not saying there isn't a time and place for armor. I always say, one of the things I say in the book is, if you are going into battle or to Costco on a Saturday afternoon, put on your armor. But otherwise, in order to really connect with people, we can't connect through armor. And when I was younger, humor was that sarcasm. it was a great way to keep people at bay and, because nobody wants to be skewered, and especially in front of others. And I realized later that that is not a good use of humor. Like anything else that's neutral, and, energy is neutral, but you can use it for good or for bad. It's how human beings get a hold of it. And so, really understanding that humor is about helping people laugh with us, not at someone else. You can laugh at yourself. That's great. And like I always say, I'm my own, you know, greatest punchline. And I don't mean that in a bad way because I know some people take it too far, but humor it's an art too, because if you're not comfortable with humor and that feels like, again, a should, like I should do this, it's like, then don't. If you want to develop your humor, absolutely. In fact, there's a great book. It's called Humor Seriously. And I forget the subtitle, but essentially it's a couple folks that are out of Stanford, and they wrote it about how you can integrate humor into business and life. It's a learned skill. Now, for some of us, it comes very naturally.
It
And so
does.
it's all about refining and honing the humor and, learning. I think I can't remember who said it to me one time. It's like, you need to use your inside voice. And they didn't mean inside the house, they meant inside my head. So there are
Yeah, don't
things
blurt it out.
do not need to be coming out of your head. Um,
Right.
but yeah, humor, I couldn't live in a world without humor, and honestly, if the world didn't have humor, they wouldn't want me there anyway.
Oh, you and me both. And just for the audience, sarcasm can be sometimes you really do need to have it, but use it sparingly. But sardonic, that's a whole different thing.
Mm.
And I happen to use the sardonic part of my brain a lot, just so you know. And
Well, and
then I'll start going, "Oh, that was cute. That was oh, write that down. That was good." So you can
well,
have
and for your
fun with it.
audience, how do you see the difference? Because I think that's important to distinguish for everyone.
Sardonic can be very dry,
Mm.
very intelligent. Sarcastic is just it's mean. Let's face
Mhm,
it, it's just
mhm.
mean. It can be nasty. But just to give you an example, there was this one person who was just insisting on talking to me at a gathering, and I'm an introvert. I don't like being there anyway. And I think my closed off persona should have clued this person in, and he just wasn't gonna do. He was gonna get my story. And I can't remember what I said, but it was like 2 or 3 words, and it didn't bother him. And a friend of mine was standing there, said, "He didn't get it, did he?" I said, "No, he didn't. He's stupid." But that was sarcastic. That part was sarcastic. But then eventually the guy came back. He said, "Did you insult me?" And I said, "Was I being too subtle?" That's sardonic. So, yeah, it was a genuine question. Was I too subtle? I'll ramp it up
Mm,
the next time you bother me. But, yeah, you have to be careful how you do those things because you can hurt people's feelings.
absolutely.
So, be careful, and I'm not often careful, so just so you know. But I
Mm.
wanted to and this is another thought that I had. If Butterfly Goo had a soundtrack, what kind of music would be on it?
Oh, I don't know. That's a great I think it would be one of those scores where you'd have the ups and downs. You'd have the highs, and it's funny when you say that. Oh, what is that? It's kind of the combination of the Sorcerer's Apprentice with Mickey Mouse, which has a little bit more of a darkness and kind of a little, mystique, and then Fantasia, the part with the hippos and the alligators, and the bizarre kind of, and then there's this da, 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 kind of thing, and it feels like that whole album is probably a great soundtrack because we have to pull I think, and I'm not a huge music fan that way. I'm a huge musical theater fan. And my brother is much more he can tell you, any music, any style, all of this and the people and everything. But I think we have to be open to so much difference in our life and the idea that our lives are going to have phases, they're going to have seasons. And to your point earlier, it could be all the same day. But we have to be open to letting some of that flow, and I think depending on where we are and depending on where we're going, that soundtrack is gonna sound different.
Oh, yeah. It really is, and if you can how do I put this? If you can learn to relax into yourself, which is not always easy, it's just
Mhm.
not. We have these tiny little brains running around all the time and, the devil on this side and the devil on that
Mhm.
side, and, I've got a squirrel brain, I think most of us do, and, we can jump from one idea to another thought in a I don't even know, I think there's been studies on how much this happens, but if you can just kinda relax and say, "Hey, m you know, let me grab that thread that just popped into my head for no reason and sit with it." And I had to train myself to just sit with things. "Hey, hey, hey, come back here. That was a good come back." And I would have to write it down and then go,
Mhm.
"What was that? Where did it come from? What do I do with it?" And that's helpful to me. It really
Mhm.
is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in a world filled with distractions, being able to find quiet and focus is it's a superpower.
Stick your head in the refrigerator.
Okay, sure, why not?
Well, I do this on purpose. You know how you always wind up in front of the refrigerator, you got the doors open, you don't know how you got there. You don't know if there was a collision in the living room when you stepped on a cat. You don't know anything. You're just there. The door is open. And I figured out that if I will deliberately when I'm looking at code and it's a jumble and I can't figure out what it is that I'm doing anymore, I'm tired, I will take myself to the living room and go into the kitchen and I open it's a double door fridge and I stick as much of my torso in there as I can. And when the bell, the doors start chiming, okay, I'm out, but I relax. It's almost like I call it the open refrigerator door meditation.
I
It
love
it
that.
shuts me down. So, it's very helpful, but I'm probably going to have a heck of a utility bill this summer from
Right.
that. But but it's helpful. You just find a way to distract yourself and just shut it down. Go for a walk with a dog.
Mm.
Walking I can't meditate, squirrel brain, I mentioned that, but I will fall into a bit of a walking meditation after a while.
Well, and I love that. I mean, I never would come up with a refrigerator meditation, and I love it because I think that's a perfect example. People have this idea of what meditation is supposed to look like and exactly how you're supposed to do it. And I think the folks who even like really do a lot of meditation, a lot of them are even going to say that, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do this, but finding what works for you instead of always trying to fit into what the world is telling you it's supposed to be, that cookie cutter of even meditation. And I love the fact that you stand in front of the refrigerator.
I just stick my whole body in there if I could. If I had a walk-in freezer, I'd probably be in it half the time. Okay, I think I lost you again. What the heck? Alright, I'm going to ask you some questions and maybe you can hear me, but what are some small practical ways that people can build resilience during uncertain transitions? And I know you've got a lot of examples in the book.
Can you hear me now?
Is this T-Mobile again? Yay.
Can you hear me now? Can
I
you hear me now?
can.
Oh, excellent. All right. Build resilience. I see this is even resilience. We're going to just keep going, even though technology is trying to mess with us. So there you go.
And we had the same problem in the green room this morning. Can you hear me now? We were doing exactly the same thing.
Mm,
Yep.
um, building resilience, I think it's and so it's so funny too because I think sometimes people think resilience is just something we're born with. That, some people are tougher, some people and I'm not saying there aren't people who have fewer fears than I do or than you do. I'm sure they do. Or they're just different fears. I think resilience truly is the ability to get back up, kind of going back to instead of dying, instead of staying stuck, we choose to grow. And every time we do that, that you're building that resilience. You're building on where you were before. And I think, just think about some of the places maybe where fear, uncertainty, or what you consider a lack of confidence, where are they keeping you stuck? Because the other thing about it is I talk about, look, we make choices about our life every day. We choose what to do, what not to do, what to wait to choose to do. But let's not convince ourselves, like being clear, choosing not to choose is still a choice. And the beauty of all of this is we do have agency. We have choice. And sometimes we tell ourselves, I don't have a choice. No, we don't. You don't have a choice. You don't have choices you like. So make choices that get you to better choices. And I think when we look at maybe where that fear, uncertainty, lack of confidence is stopping us, that we are allowing it to stop us, take a moment, find one step that's gonna make you uncomfortable and take that step. And again, it sounds like it's easy. It's easy for me to put the words out of my mouth. It is not easy to do, and let's not set that expectation. Again, change, transformation, all of it is messy, and that's okay. But look at where you're allowing the world to stop you from getting something you really want, from moving in a direction you really want. I say to people, look, find the intersection of what excites and scares you and go there because that's telling you something. And just start taking it step by step. And don't worry what anybody else thinks. If someone tells you it's too small of a step or it's the wrong step, you know what? We are the architects of our path. And don't get me wrong, there can be some great advice out there. That's wonderful. And we are the ones that have to build our path because we're the ones that have to walk it brick by brick. So make a decision today. What's one thing you could do today that would be a little uncomfortable? Lay that brick. And then tomorrow, find a new thing that would be a little uncomfortable. And what you find is you're laying these bricks, and that is the whole, a journey of 1,000 miles. I say, begins with a single step. It starts to sound trite because it's true, meaning it does get used because it is true. And a lot of times we'll get all the way down, and after we've laid so many bricks, we look back and we can see how far we've come. So pick something today that's going to make you uncomfortable. Get moving.
And then track it. It took me a while to figure this out because, I do a lot of different things, but I didn't keep track of it. I would realize, "Oh, I've mastered that. Okay, great, but how did I do it? How long did it take me?" And then I would get curious about it. So it may just be something small like putting on shoes and going out and walking with the dog at 4 in the morning, which I did this morning. Normally, we don't go out. She didn't want to. She's like, "What time is it?" I was like, "Come on, let's go." She really dug her heels in, but if I don't write and just small things, I keep a what do you call those? A composition book, and I'll date it and go, "Here was a little step, here was a little step," and then I can go back, go, "Oh, I've been doing that for a while. I didn't realize it had become a habit."
And I think that's great because you start to see patterns
You
really
do,
well.
you do. You also start to see where you're just going, "Nah, not gonna do it." Or as we say in the South, "That ain't happening, hon."
That ain't happening.
Yeah. So, you can find out where you're really resisting. I was having a conversation with
Mhm,
myself this morning about resisting, which is really procrastination. And then I was trying to figure out why. I mean, I was resisting just darn near everything this morning. I just woke up that way, but I decided I wasn't going to stay in that.
mhm. Well,
But I had to have a chat with myself. It got rude a couple times.
oh, no, absolutely. You have to have a sit down sometimes, and it's just
Yep.
like, I think
And
they say this in the South, it's a come to Jesus meeting. It's like you have to, like, give yourself, like, that stern talking to, and it's like and in terms of tracking, we tend to track the things we need to change. We tend to track where we need to fix something that went wrong. We gotta track our wins too.
right. Right.
Right? We have to say, "Oh, you know what? I did this because it's one of those things where it's almost like even when we have a goal, if okay, let's say there's a finish line, you don't have to have one, maybe it's just a practice that you do every day, but if there is, and then all of a sudden you reach there, and then you move the finish line because you're like, "Oh, well, that's nice, but I gotta keep going." It's like you never get that sense of accomplishment, and that is one of those things that is so powerful to continue to build forward.
Absolutely. And it took me a while to figure out that I wasn't tracking. I mean, yeah, I'm going to make mention somewhere on a piece of paper and somewhere something great or horrible happened. But the small ones, I was not keeping track, and I wasn't able to say, "Well, how did I get here? What did I do? How often did I do it? Was it worth it?" You know, those kind, and that leads me back to, and I wrote this down while you were lost because I lost you there for a little while. But I wanted to, wanted to talk with you. I lost I need to move my cat's butt off of here. Um, Teams, no, that wasn't it. I did have a question. Self-awareness. And
Mm,
I wrote down doing the inner work, and then I also wrote right next to that self-awareness, which is kinda what we're talking about now.
mhm. So important, and that is a practice too, and I think back to the idea that the world is so chaotic and there's so many things that can pull you. away, being able to really self-reflect, and it is hard because we can't see ourselves objectively, and, to be fair, we can't see anything objectively. We always have a perspective.
No, it's in our own bias, and we have to be aware of those things.
Absolutely. We have to be aware, but to your point, being able to be self-reflective and challenge it, and even like I have moments I get that hangry thing that when you're hungry, it's like I know that whatever I'm feeling in that moment may not be real. So that's just when I shut my mouth and I know I need to eat, and then I'll see how I feel about it later. um, but we do have to understand ourselves. And it's funny, this whole we talk about vulnerability all the time. I think the hardest person to be vulnerable with is ourselves. We have to be willing to see where things may not be going well, where they're good. We have to embrace those too. Um, but if we're not willing to sit with ourselves and really have that hard conversation and hear, what might be happening, and even listen to other folks, people you trust, get a sense for, folks can say, what they think of X, Y, and Z, but we have our intent. They have their experience of us. So asking folks, well, what's your experience of me, or how is that? Again, they don't get to define you, but if you're having trouble with some of that, how do you seek out additional input? And then how do you spend time sitting with yourself in places that probably aren't going to be comfortable?
They're not comfortable. I had a business coach years ago, many, many years ago. It's my first, coach, and she was a lady, and I loved her, but she she was really good about listening to me whine, and I
Mhm,
did a
mhm.
lot of that in the early days. I was just it got I was sick of it. I don't know how she tolerated me, but she asked me, she got very quiet one day, and I thought, "Oh god, and she's gonna fire me. I know she's gonna fire me. She's sick of me." And she said, "Denise." I went, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "What are you tolerating?" That changed my life.
Mhm,
It
mm.
really did. And I went, "Huh." And I still ask myself just about every day, "What are you tolerating?" Because it's easy to fall back into old habits or old thoughts or, just stuff that does you no good at all. So what are you tolerating?
I love that question. I think that and it's so simple, and yet it does you dig so deep when that happens, it can hit you like a ton of bricks.
Oh, every day. I've never forgotten it, and she didn't fire me. We eventually parted ways, but I just knew she was gonna say, "Quit whining. I can't stand you." But I couldn't stand myself at the time. It was a rough patch in my life, but when she asked me that and she was so quiet and so deliberate, and I just went, I think I quit breathing for a while,
Mhm. Yep,
and it's been
absolutely.
with me ever since. I ask myself a lot, "What are you tolerating?" And then it'll go on to, "Is this old? Is this new? Has this resurfaced?
Mm.
What the heck is going on in your little pea brain?"
I think that old part is so important because, it's funny, we talk about the gremlins or the inner critic or some of that little voice in our head a lot of times is it's old. It happened it got developed when we were much younger, and at the time, it served us. Because we don't hold on to a lot of things like that, especially early on, that don't serve us. The problem is we're not there anymore. We're not the same person. We're not the person that can we can handle more now. We can do all of this. And so sometimes I'll have this little conversation with myself too. It's like, and I think about it as being the little girl that I was, and I'll just say, "You know what? Thank you. I know you're trying to protect me. I appreciate this, but I got this. I'm good. So go ahead and sit and relax because I'm going to take the wheel."
I'm gonna do that because I
Mhm.
I will catch the old stuff popping up. I'm like, "Really? Go away."
Mhm. Mhm.
But I don't give it a reason to go away, so thank you. I wanted to ask you, was there a part of the book that was just really particularly difficult for you to write? Because 'Cause we're talking about vulnerability here.
We are.
Vulnerability. I can't say it, but I can
Oh, no,
spell it.
vulnerability. Oh, you did great.
Yeah, there you go.
Um, and I know because you read it. I know what you're at. Um, yes, there absolutely was. So the book is loosely based on Joseph Campbell's journey, hero's journey. And for those who aren't familiar, Joseph Campbell was a writer, philosopher, and he talked about this idea that our journeys have kind of an arc. They have kind of stages. Doesn't mean our journeys are the same. They're absolutely not. But he consulted, I think, with George Lucas, Star Wars, and you look at the Greek mythology, all these stories, because humans are we're storytellers. But this idea of the journey that we have to step into the unknown, we go through these trials and tribulations, and we go through this kind of final big trial, and then we come out the other side. And in the book, I talk about the abyss because Joseph Campbell, he refers to it as kind of the inner cave, or I have heard abyss too, but the idea that I really had to dig deep, and through the process actually of writing the book, it even became clearer. Um, my mom, who's passed away now, she struggled with a lot of mental illness. And when I was young, somehow I stepped in very early, probably about 11, and I really wanted to help her, support her. I wanted to make her better. And I really became the mother figure. I counseled her. I really helped. I tried to protect her, and that, I believe, looking back, if you'd asked me, I would have said no at the time, but that's what led me onto that path toward a PhD in psychology, which for those out there, if you read the book, I that is the first path I got off of because it wasn't the right path. And I think one of the reasons I got on and the reason it wasn't the right path is I was still trying to fix her and help her, and I couldn't. We can't fix someone else, and we can support them, but if they won't make the decisions that are right for them, we can't change that. And I really struggled because she is gone and because, she can't say, "Well, I see it differently," and my mom was always very proud of me. And that was one of the hard parts to bring out was there's this mix of, the mental illness, but there's this mix of, smart and fun and wonderful. And it was so hard because when you got that look, that part of her, that smart, wonderful, talented, because she made cakes, she loved to bake. It's like that I know that that person's in there, and to see it drowned by mental illness, it's devastating. And so going through this part, which I knew was fundamental to who I am and how I got to where I am, and I wanted to honor her. And I'm sure there are people out there that read the book where I grew up, and they are still like, that didn't happen because to the world, she didn't look like that. And there are people, even myself, that I didn't write this when she was still alive, and I wouldn't wanted to have hurt her. And I think I now have perspective that she passed, and maybe maybe I wasn't brave enough to write it when she was alive. And there's so many mixed feelings in writing this and figuring out how to explain it and talk through it in the experience and provide that balance. And I think one of the best things that happened is my folks got divorced when I was in my 20s, so later, but my dad, after he read it, said, "You did a beautiful job with that." And that to me was the praise was I couldn't have asked for anything more. And I think if you look at the dedication, I dedicate it to my mom, my dad, and my husband for different reasons. And the dedication to my mom is I wouldn't be the person I am today without you. And I am finally okay with that.
And your dad was there with you. He was witnessing a lot of what you witnessed.
Yeah, he was. And we all had our roles in it, there
Right.
was enabling and there was some codependence and it's hard because it's not like we're given a roadmap on how to handle things in life, right? We don't come with an owner's manual. And so we're all trying to figure it out. And when you're young, it's easy to think that the adults, should all know what they're supposed to do. And we don't.
No,
Right? We don't, but you don't
not
realize
not
that
on
when you're
Monday,
a kid.
not on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No,
Mm,
we don't know. We just get
no.
up and we go do the best we can do.
Mhm. Yep, you know, and again, I'm not saying tolerating when we say that for other folks, and I am by no means, saying that, what I went through is kind of the worst you could have. It is absolutely not, and I also say in the book, this isn't a competition. we get that, and if it were, I wouldn't wanna win for what the worst things that can happen to people, and I have people in my life that I they went through things that I have no idea how not only they survived, but thrived as a result. Um, but we all have our stuff, and giving grace to the people in the world that we don't know what someone else is going to. It doesn't mean they can abuse us. It doesn't mean they can treat us poorly, but we also don't know what's happening in other people's lives. And being able to give some grace and assume positive intent, it goes a long way.
It really does, and having the snarky personality that I do, I didn't give grace for the longest kinda time.
Oh, me either.
I was young, I was arrogant, I was always the smartest person in the room, I still am, but I
Mhm,
can say
mhm.
that completely straight faced because I live alone. I am the smartest person in this house, so I'm not lying. But then in my very early 20s, life just became it was death after death after death. I mean, I got to the point for multiple years I wouldn't pick up the phone after 9 o'clock at night. My attitude was, "Well, if he's dead now, he'll still be dead tomorrow." I mean, I had to grow a thick skin about it, and it changed me. It really did. It just, "Denise, you're just about a sociopath. You may wanna ratchet that down here." And I had to have some long, hard and I still do, talks with myself. Not as bad as it used to be, but I would look at the world, I would look at myself, I would look at my family and go, God's gonna just turn this terrarium upside down one day and dump us all. That's the I can see it happening, but it was just I was not the person I am now, thank goodness, because I was
Mhm.
not a nice person. I was young, I was arrogant, really arrogant, and I'm not proud of it. But I
Mm.
lived through it and, nobody tried to kill me, so there's that. Or if they did, they missed. I don't know.
It
It
is.
could be
I hear you.
yeah. But, and it's you said it earlier, we go through these seasons, we ebb and tide, we go through seasons, but we also, if we're paying attention, we get to choose what we want of those seasons. And
Mhm.
I think that's really what you're trying to say with this book. And I wanted to ask you, what kind of feedback have you received from readers that maybe surprised you?
Surprised me. There was and so, initially when I was writing this, you get pushed a lot to say, "Okay, who's your audience? Who's your audience?"
Right.
Especially when you're trying to market the book. And, people wanna say, "Well, everybody's my audience."
Everybody.
I'm like,
No, that's the wrong
"Everybody."
answer.
Exactly, and they do that. It has surprised me. So, initially, my target audience were, folks kinda mid-career, that were feeling stuck because they were going through either a change in life or a change in career, or they weren't going through a change that they really wanted to because they just felt stuck, and we all know that feeling when we're stuck. But I had some folks that one was a young man that was about 25, and he resonated with it, and I thought, "Really?" And I can see that. I mean, that you're coming out of college and, you're just still early in your career, and a lot of times we are told that there are these paths that are clearly laid out for us that, you're gonna be an accountant, you're gonna be a doctor, you're gonna be a chemist, you're gonna be a pharmacist, whatever it is. And we don't realize and Joseph Campbell said that if when you go into the deepest, darkest, kind of depths of the woods and you see a path, it's not your path. It is someone else's path. That your path, and that won't help you fulfill your potential. Doesn't mean you can't fulfill it being a doctor or a lawyer or a chemist or even, working at Hardee's. You can absolutely do that. It's just important to walk the path as though it's yours. So I was really surprised, and that's helped me think differently. The other one was a former client of mine and he put the review on, and it's great. I was just shocked at the depth of what he took away from it, because I wasn't also sure sometimes with folks that are more business oriented if they would resonate with, a memoir. Humorous, let's be clear, and it does have some self-help aspects in the back. There's a playground, so there are, and again, it's not that you have to transform. I say with the book, look, if you wanna do the takeaways that are at the end of each chapter, or if you have your own takeaways, great, do that. If you wanna go back into the playground and use some of the self-reflective questions or some of the, the exercises, and kind of start to play around with your own transformation. And again, play. No forcing, there's no expectations, just play. If all you wanna do is read the book and laugh at my mistakes, then do that. Totally up to you. It's a choose your own adventure. Um, so I was really surprised he came back with this very profound takeaway that in terms of his own transformation and how he looked at it, and he said to me, he said, "This is gonna be a perennial read. I'm gonna go back to this, and I'm gonna read it over and over." And I was so flattered and so humbled. Um, and I think it also goes back to we take away from things, beyond what I intend or beyond what you intend in your writing your book. We don't know how we might impact people based on where they are in their life and what the message is that they need to hear. And I think that really drove it home for me. And like I said, I was very humbled to be able to provide that opportunity, that conduit for him to explore his own realizations.
I love that. And I have to tell the audience the chapter that she's talking about here with her mom is chapter 9, Plunge into the Abyss. I've got sticky notes all over it. The lunchbox notes,
Oh, yeah.
those kinda grab me in the chest, but anyway, you know what? I really need for you to come back because there's so much about this book, and we've been talking about
Mm.
you, me, us, moms, we've been heading pretty personal with this. I'd
Mhm.
like for you to come back September, October, and talk about leadership, how this book can really help people with leadership.
Love that. Absolutely. Yeah.
See, I did it on the
Yeah.
radio, so you can't tell me
Oh, I can't take it back. And just to, also the fundamental piece that we sometimes forget, leaders are people too. So we have to
yep,
remember that's our foundation to start with. But absolutely, this applies to
yeah,
leadership.
and it really does, and I know we kind of glossed over that because there's so much in this book, and there's so much in your story, and I was nodding I think I gave myself a headache, I was nodding my head so hard. I was like, "Okay, now I need some aspirin," but it's been a lovely conversation. Before I let you go, and thank you, I want you to come back, I'll send you the link. If someone only remembers one concept from your book, what do you want it to be?
That transformation is not about turning ourselves into something we're not. It is about discovering and embracing the best of who we are so that we can live that fullest version of ourselves and we can really build that path to the life we want to live.
Got it. Rachel, where can our audience connect with you? Where can they find you online? Where can they find the book? And is there an Audible?
There is an Audible and I read it.
Right. Ooh,
So it is on, yeah, it's on, the book is on Amazon. All of it, just put in my name, Rachel Burr, and it'll pop up. There are other Rachel Burrs in there, so you may want to add the Butterfly Goo. I think one of them, I think she's an exercise fitness guru, which you will know immediately that is not me. Um, so the best place to find me is on my website. It's Rachel, RachelM, as in Maureen Burr, BURR.com. There is a butterfly page that's off that, but I find remembering, too many letters is too hard. At least it is for me. So going there, you can find the book. Like I said, you can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If you have other local places that you like to buy books, just have them order it. So, and of course, I'm on LinkedIn for those who are looking for some of the leadership pieces. So yeah, absolutely. But start with my website, and you can find me probably any place else from there.
got it. Rachel, this has been such an insightful and honest conversation. I really appreciate you laughing. We have
Absolutely.
really appreciate you taking the time to share not just your expertise, but your personal journey as well. We all have a personal journey. We're all still on it. So let's not forget that.
Mhm.
And today we
Mhm.
talked about what transformation really looks like, not the polished version we often see too often, because I've gotten to the point where that's AI. That's it. That's not true. I'm just suspicious of just about everything now. But we're not talking about the polished version we see, but the messy, uncomfortable, and the very real process that happens in the middle. And we explored the meaning behind Butterfly Goo. Love that. It's a beautiful book. Go get it. Why growth requires letting go and how resistance, fear, and even humor all play a role in becoming, excuse me, who we're meant to be. And we also touched on how this applies to leadership and why self-awareness and authenticity are so critical, not just for personal growth, but for leading others effectively. It's a powerful reminder that transformation isn't something to rush or avoid. It's something to move through even when it feels uncertain. Rachel, thank you again. And I really look forward to having you come back and adding to this conversation. As I said, we just didn't get to touch on everything that I wanted to touch on.
Well, I love that. That just means, Denise, that we had a fabulous conversation.
We do when we could hear each other. It was great.
And again,
We're
resilience, right? You just keep pushing through and you figure it out.
that and I'm mad at Zoom, so let's not forget that's the most important thing. Well, listen, everybody, thank you for tuning in to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am Denise Griffitts, and until next time, take care. Rachel, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I had a fabulous time.
Thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.